1.6 million Bitcoin this year. In this video, we're going to jump down into Bitcoin. We're going to take a look at a little bit of analysis on what is going on with Bitcoin and what I think is likely to happen next. As I get into this video, if you do find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, links in the description down below. Fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free to join, so I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find. Go ahead, check it out, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Right, let's jump down into Bitcoin here. As I said, 1.6 million Bitcoin this year. And basically what I'm talking about here is the amount of Bitcoin that has left exchanges more than has gone on, right? So we've had 1.6 million more Bitcoin leave than that's gone on to exchanges this year so far. Now, this chart is from Glassnode, and we are basically just taking a look at the net position change, so the difference between the amount of Bitcoin going on and the Bitcoin coming off, and the net difference this year is 1.65 million Bitcoin. Okay, that's a significant amount. In fact, we're starting to see numbers that we haven't really seen even in 2021, right? We're starting to see numbers leaving the exchanges greater than even we were before we had the run into early 2021, right? This is really encouraging for many different reasons. Ultimately, what we're looking at here is a huge squeeze on the supply of Bitcoin on exchanges, right? And this is an important thing when it comes to price discovery. And a lot of people kind of focus really on the market cap, but market cap only really represents price, okay? It's the last sold price multiplied by the circulating supply. It doesn't actually show you value, it doesn't show you liquidity, and it doesn't show you, what's actually going on in terms of price discovery, right? Now, what you need for price discovery is really simple, and we all know this. It's two simple things. It's supply and demand, right? If you start to control the supply and squeeze that down and make it even harder to get hold of, and there's a demand for it, the price is going to increase dramatically. And what we're seeing here is half of this equation. We are seeing a huge squeeze on the supply before the demand has even come in. So when this demand for Bitcoin comes in, the crazy FOMO from retail investors, Bitcoin's going to go absolutely insane. But it won't just be Bitcoin, there's also all the altcoins that are going to go crazy as well. So this is really encouraging data, and I do want to kind of just really point out to everyone that 1.6 million more Bitcoin has left the exchanges than has gone on. And I think yesterday we had about 93,000 Bitcoin leave. The day before was 96,000 and so forth, right? So some pretty nice numbers coming out. Now, obviously, I'm just going to roll this back into the 2017 timeframe, and you can see what the difference looks like between a bull market and a bear market, right? The bear market is very much all the green, okay? And the green basically from a bear market is Bitcoin going onto the exchanges more than is coming off the exchanges, and the red is more Bitcoin is leaving the exchanges than is going on the exchanges. Now, this little spike just over here, this is essentially May. This is where basically we were at $65,000 Bitcoin and we went down to $28,000 Bitcoin, right? That is the kind of crashes that was I think it was about 53%, something like that. A pretty decent crash, right? We actually saw the price crash from the $69,000 range, even though there wasn't huge inflows. So this makes me wonder what was actually going on. And once we actually got to the bottom of this, it turned out that Binance had, I think it was bought like some crazy number of Bitcoin, and I can't actually remember exactly the amount, but I think it was like 4 billion or something like that, or $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. And it does make me wonder what's actually going on here as we start to see some of these squeezes on the supply, specifically as you start to see Bitcoin leaving. Usually what happens is basically the price goes up and Bitcoin leaves, right? But as the price was coming down, Bitcoin was leaving. And I find that quite odd in itself, but nonetheless, it is what it is. And I think it's important that we just understand that what's going to create the crazy prices that a lot of people have been talking about for Bitcoin. And it's this is what causes it, because essentially supply and demand is absolutely everything for price discovery. Market cap has absolutely nothing to do with it. Money that goes into a project, nothing to do with it. It's all about however much supply there is and whatever kind of demand there is. And so I want to just kind of start things off with that. Now let's jump down into the charts and talk about the kind of choppy corrective moves that we've been seeing. So obviously we hit our target of 47.5. We actually pushed up a little higher. We got up to 48,189. And then we started to pull back down. Here we had a 335 correction. We got ourselves tight into this this wedge, and then we pulled down with 5 waves, right? So a 335 correction. Then we pushed up 5 waves, and then we had here what I believe to be again going to basically be a 333 with 5 more waves. So essentially this is ABC expanding flat in the middle. Okay, so if we think of this as a big A wave up, this being a B wave expanding flat, we should be now thinking about some potential moves for 5 waves up, okay, completing this ABC corrective move in the same way that we have over here with an ABC and the C wave containing the 5 waves. In this case, we actually have 5 waves at the A wave and 5 waves on the C wave. Okay, so we had an interesting kind of push back down yesterday. The market crashed on the back of Bitcoin pulling back, and we complete the ABC, and now we've moved up, and we are looking again probably for some kind of B wave. I would expect some volatility, some kind of pull back down. Specifically just inside this range here for Bitcoin. Okay, we could come down quite a bit, so let me just kind of show you what I think is most likely, although the most typical, I should say, for this, right? So if I actually show this as a potential, we've had up, we're still, yeah, tracking down. Okay, cool. So if I grab hold of my rectangle here, I will show you that the 50% range down to the 786 is going to be sorry, not the 786, the 88% even. It's quite a deep one. This is the area that I'm thinking. Okay, so this is the area that I think we're most likely going to retrace to. Essentially we've got is this at the moment, but I think this could come down a little bit lower. Of course it could be shallow, anything is possible, but this is the most typical area, right? And for clarity on that, let me just grab hold of this line. We'll throw these in so we can get the actual values here. So it's 46,013, 45,350. Okay, so essentially we're going down to the lower end of 45,350 up to about $46,000. This is the range that would be most probable on a pullback if this is in fact 5 waves. Okay, if this is 5 waves, this correction would be wave 2. So we would end up with a wave 1 here, this being a wave 2, then we have a 3, 4, and 5 going much higher. Okay, and again, you know, we can speculate on where those might go depending on those retracements and all that kind of good stuff. So that's kind of what you're looking at there, essentially for that move. That would then actually complete you know, a flat correction or a 535, but it would also give us the ability to say maybe this is in fact a start of another impulsive move upwards. Okay, so we should be kind of open to the idea of both scenarios here, but I'm going to just kind of leave it here for a second with that idea of a pullback. Now the stochastic RSI is up in the overbought area. Okay, so this does need to have a correction. We should be thinking there's going to be the correction pulling down into this yellow box area, and essentially that should lower the stochastic RSI on our hourly chart. Now the 4 hourly for Bitcoin is in the overbought area as well, so again we should be thinking there's going to be a pullback here as well. Okay, and again, the yellow box area is still the target for that. The 8 hourly chart is coming up nicely, right? So this pullback will basically just bring it back down a little bit before we have that continued surge to the upside. Now, the daily chart is where we actually start to see some interesting stuff because we pulled back down from the overbought area about halfway down on the daily chart, and we could now start to see a good move upwards. Potentially. So we should be, you know, open to the idea still that, you know, this, although we have completed this ABC on this daily chart, could still have some traction still to go upwards. And again, we could mark this up as an impulsive move, and this is a 4th wave, if we just look at this little section here in isolation. Okay, if we actually take a look at this set of candles in isolation and not, you know, what is going on this side, this actually looks like a pretty good structure for an impulsive move upwards. Okay, so we want to be kind of open to the idea that maybe we're actually starting an impulsive move, but we just didn't start it from where we thought we were, which was down here. But the structure still remains A, B, C also. So again, we have structure on either way. If it is A, B, C and we end up with that 48,000 high point, then essentially we are looking at A, B, C down. We have our trend line, of course, something to keep an eye on as we have a couple of touch points on this. But essentially, you know, if we do come back down, I don't think we're going to come down too far. I've said it before, about 37. And $1,500 seems a good area of support to be had. So if we were to pull back down, it would probably coincide with that trend line as well. So that's the idea here on Bitcoin on the daily chart. Obviously, with the crazy amount of Bitcoin flowing out of the exchanges, we should be open to the idea that you know, Bitcoin's got a pretty good run ahead of it, right? So when we start thinking about the weekly chart and we start thinking about, okay, well, if this is all a big run, where does our kind of levels take us? Well, we do have the running flat correction. We have the ability to see $100,000 Bitcoin, maybe even more, but there is going to be some kind of weekly correction. And I said 37,500 for a reason, and I think that's what's going to be required to basically bring down our stochastic RSI on our weekly chart, and because it is overbought and we cannot stay overbought for too long. So I reckon there's going to be a small push up, and then there's going to be some kind of pullback down, and the pullback down will essentially take us into that range. I actually have it down here a little bit lower, but I think for $37,500 is a starting point. That's kind of where I think this is likely to be. And then after that, we should be in a pretty good position for a push up. Now, on that note, I think it's important to know that I'm just speculating as to where I think it's going to go based on support levels and not on the wave counts. Because we're ABC up, we don't have any good structure for being able to predict the next moves down using Elliott wave theory. We need to see the waves first. Now, what I mean by this is we can look at the support levels and we can look at the resistance levels, and we can start to plot out the waves as they appear and see if they coincide. But the other thing I think is really important is we understand, the level of pullbacks that we actually do normally have. And if I bring up my other Bitcoin chart here, this is using Bitstamp, we can see that for 2021, we had a 21% pullback, we had 26, and we've had a 32% pullback. We obviously had the 56%, that was the one in March there, not 53, but 56, and 24, right? And then we had the 51% pullback recently. But if we take a look at back in 2017 bull run, it was basically an average about 40%. We had 37, 42, 40, 35, 34, 40, 39, and then a big 69% crash and a 44% after that, right? So Bitcoin has a pretty good track record of sizable corrections in 2017, but not so big during 2021. We've had two big kind of corrections, but nothing kind of on the smaller scale. So the other one that I want to kind of highlight here, as I said it before, is that in the crash of the March 2020 pandemic, what we actually saw here was a 72% pullback. And we were in a very similar situation. We were overbought, looking to go into the oversold area, right? And that's not what we want to see. We don't want to see a large correction like that. What we want to do is we want to see August 2020. That August 2020 correction took us from an overbought to an oversold area and only dropped 21%. That's the one that I think we're going to get. So I'm going to be optimistic and hopeful on that because that is what I think is likely to happen over here, and that would take us down to about 37k or so. So right into that sweet spot there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Hopefully that does play out for Bitcoin here. Let me just get rid of that on there. And then, of course, once we have that correction out of the way, we can start progressing nicely to the upside. And we might be able to actually start talking about new all-time highs and all that kind of good stuff. We aren't there yet, but things are definitely progressing quite nicely. And as soon as we get some decent demand kicking in, I don't think there's going to be a lot stopping Bitcoin's price from flying with the amount of Bitcoin leaving the exchanges. Guys, I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.